what I would like to do is, first of all, thank Professor Agarwal because he mentioned a name of a university which normally does not get recognized over here, which I'm an alumni of, which is ICT, UDCT. So thank you for that. And I come over here with a background which is quite diverse. My education is in pharmaceuticals. I did maybe 8 or 9 years of my life on healthcare, and now I'm here talking to you about digital literacy. So what we see over here is the need of the hour, and how do we need to really manage that requirement which is there on the ground. So I've got some very interesting, and since I've taken up a role which is beyond India, there are a number of examples that I come across where we, so there are a number of examples that we come across where we start looking at the very basis of what is it that would help people in terms of moving up the ladder. You can say that, okay, there are skills which can be used, which typically are the brick and mortar skills which exist, which traditionally existed, and we can do that better, we can scale that better. But can that be integrated with the revolution which is happening on information and technology? I'm not advocating over here that you switch over and move everything to information technology, but I'm saying use it in parallel. So I'm going to talk to you about an example. This is a case study of Lubna Javed. She's 29 years old, a graduate from rural Sindh in Pakistan, who basically had a passion for tailoring. So she had her own shop over there, which was basically creating clothes. Maybe it can be perceived in terms of marketing, it can be changing the persona of a person. So, I mean, you can define it the way you want it, but what really helped transform Lubna's life? She took up a course which was basically not on ICT literacy, because ICT literacy can actually talk to you about how do you start a machine, how do you use it, how do you use, say, be it Microsoft's set of tools or be it open source set of tools. It basically gives you how to do that. But the right points which were raised by all the panel members is the applicability of that. How do you make that applicable for a person like Lubna to use that to become productive? So that's where we basically have a course material which was basically created called Intel Easy Steps, which is an open access, no license charge tool which is provided to people like this through NGOs, governments, and development agencies to reach out and transform lives like Lubna's. So with this course, she's been able to reach out, sitting in rural Sindh, to markets in Karachi. And I don't want to restrict it to within a country, because when we did a program in Latin America, which was focused on small and medium business, we got one of the persons from the audience to come up on stage and say, why did he actually join that particular program? And the statement he made was, traditionally, I lived here, I worked here, I earned here, and I spent here. With technology, I live here, I earn here, I work anywhere, and I spend anywhere. That's the change which he's actually started to see, because he can actually start doing his activities across the world through various skills which are there. And it's not about traditional skills or traditional jobs which we are talking about. We actually need to see what new jobs are getting created as a result of the moving economy. Here's another case of telecenters which are actually employing women to man those centers, which is a program run by telecenter.org, which is again using the same concept of Intel Easy Steps, which is trying to build about digital literacy amongst women who can then be used to actually service the e-government requirements. So you need at the front end at the client side, you need basically someone who understands how to use technology, how to provide those services across to the citizens. So this is another way in which that particular tool has been used. Now I move away to my favorite example of healthcare, wherein I talk about you need to have a vision, you need to have a kind of goal which you need to move towards. And over here, what we see is the government of Sri Lanka. So Professor Kim, this is something which we are working with the Ministry of Health in Sri Lanka, is a commitment which came in right from the President's office, which says that they will train all their 100,000 employees on information and communication technology by 2015. And this is not because they are not adhering to the MDG goals. They've already achieved MDG goals way back in 2005. What they are looking at is a bigger challenge which we are just about touching it in India, which is non-communicable disease. They have the highest density of diabetics in the world. So if you're looking at the health force not using technology to reach out or to way in which you can change them, imagine trying to train 100,000 in-service employees. So they are again looking at various means, and we're basically engaging with them in terms of tools which can be used for using technology to reach out to in-service training. So getting down to the steps which we normally talk of. I mean, Intel has a typical 4E platform which we talk of. It starts with education. Now, like rightly said over here, it's not just about digital inclusion, but it's also talking about 21st century skills. So we do mention that it is important for us to look at both these aspects while we talk about educating our kids. Now, why are we educating them? It's basically to ensure that they are employable. Coming back to an example of healthcare, if you look over here in the Indian context, hospitals tend to have a pretty high attrition rate of nurses, especially after the second year. So hospitals have started going and putting up their own nursing schools because they find that whatever is coming out from the market is not really, it takes them close to around 6 months to get them ready to basically be applicable, to work in that particular environment. Now look at Philippines. Philippines is the largest exporter of nurses to the world. They are known for Filipino nurses per se. That industry is close to around a $1 billion industry to that country. Now, they understood the challenges which are being faced because they need to ensure that the nurses remain employable. What they have done is they looked at the trends which are happening in the Western Europe as well as in the US about use of ICT in hospitals. So there are mandates over there saying that you need to use ICT, EMRs by 2014, else you will not get insurance coverage. With that trend, the nurses need to develop the skills. So the government has taken a mandate to basically build in nursing informatics as mandatory in the course curriculum. Now that's a proactive approach of looking at it. And you need to start looking at how do you make your people employable. That's the bottom line. Now it's not necessary that everyone goes into industry. So that's where you saw the case of Lubna, where you start looking at entrepreneurs. So you basically are creating infrastructure which can help not just the industry, but also individuals in trying to achieve their own objectives. And that in turn leads to economic growth. And there are various statistics which talks about how increase in, say, the broadband penetration within a country has a direct impact on GDP growth. So this leads us to Intel's vision, which was set up the start of this decade, that this decade we will create and extend computing technology to connect and enrich the lives of every person on earth. That's a bold statement to make as an organization, and we basically take from that a number of other mission statements which we have come out with. For example, in the healthcare space, we've taken an example of training 1 million healthcare workers by 2015. The reason 2015, because it's the time when you actually talk about the MDG goals. Through government agencies, NGOs, and development agencies, using certain open access platforms which are developed by Intel. So we've basically taken up this kind of a goal, and it's a mission statement, and we'll be going after that thing, not just as a corporate social responsibility business, but as a business on its own. Thank you.